Hi everyone, I'm Kathleen Rabat and I run the 4DOCEANS lab here at the Fisheries and Marine Institute of Memorial University. Our project is about understanding the spatio-temporal environmental drivers of benthic communities. I will now turn it over to students who are really the driving force.
Species rely on a range of environmental conditions to ensure their survival in a region. For example, creatures like sponges often filter feed on hard substrates like boulders. But sponge habitats face numerous anthropogenic threats, the effects of which are not well understood and could pose irreversible impacts. Such species-environment relationships occur across the oceans, but can be difficult to study. With current pressures on our oceans and only 20% of the seafloor mapped, there is a global effort to fill this gap and uncover these relationships.
Some of our research utilizes multibeam echosounders, which measure the time it takes for a sonar ping to travel from a vessel to the seafloor and back. Multibeam allows for high-resolution 3D bathymetry, or depth models, of a survey site to be built. From this, in addition, backscatter can also be indicative of soft versus hard sediments, depending on the intensity of returned pings. This visualization of the seafloor can be used to calculate additional terrain attributes such as slope, aspect, rugosity, and that's just to name a few, and this can help determine where benthic assemblages will likely be.
Many species live in shallow coastal waters. These habitats can be challenging to study with a typical research vessel, and sometimes we need to take to the skies. Remotely piloted aerial systems offer a unique perspective with many applications to help us understand the ocean and underlying species-environment relationships. Here in the 4DOCEANS lab, we've been using drones to map eelgrass in Placentia Bay, but the potential applications for studying coastal environments are seemingly endless.
We also use drop cameras to help us study the seabed. Drop cameras are cameras that are lowered to the seafloor and left to drift slightly above the seabed, recording footage of everything below. They allow us to see the different species that are present in different areas, and the different substrate types as well. This information combined with environmental data allows us to see the habitat preferences of different species and model these relationships to predict distributions and create species distribution maps.
Tools and technology that allow us to explore the deep sea are being developed every year. For example, cameras like dot cams can take pictures of the deep sea under crushing pressure and freezing temperatures. Megacores sink in the bottom of the ocean to sample sediments. Sonars are used to collect bathymetric data. And underwater vehicles are probably the most useful piece of technology available right now. ROVs are likely the most efficient way to explore the deep sea. ROVs, or remote operated vehicles, act as the eyes and hands of scientists controlling them from the research vessels. ROVs send environmental data and video to the surface in real time. The data collected by this device is helping us to understand the deep sea better.
Cabled seafloor observatories use a combination of video and environmental sensors to study seafloor communities in situ. This infrastructure can collect high-frequency data to resolve rapid processes like behavior and current flow, and can also help us understand how seafloor ecosystems change on seasonal, yearly, and decadal scales. A new observatory in Holyrood will let us study the seafloor community in Conception Bay to learn how seasonal change influences subarctic benthic megafauna.
By combining point-sampled video data with continuous coverage of the seabed, we can develop spatially explicit maps describing species communities and substrate types.
Most habitat maps are built off of only one sampling event. The issue is that these habitats are not static. For example, many species migrate seasonally, like snow crab migrate to shallower water when spawning in the spring, and also food inputs change seasonally due to spring and fall phytoplankton blooms.
Green here is one ecological interaction that is common in the Northwest Atlantic, where the green sea urchin has decimated kelp populations, forming what are known as urchin barrens. Only a few kelp species can avoid consumption, one such being the large-bladed species called Agarum clathrotum.
Seagrass seascapes come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and are affected by many natural and anthropogenic stressors. It is important to establish a baseline of these habitats so that we can monitor temporal trends and inform conservation efforts accordingly.
I use a combination of time series analysis techniques and generalized additive modeling to tease apart complex, nonlinear relationships between organism abundance and environmental change over time.
The deep sea is the largest biome on Earth, with 92% of the marine environment below 200 meters, so there is still plenty to explore and discover. Advances in technology have made exploring the deep a little more accessible. Remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs for short, are the more commonly used technology for this research and allow us a glimpse into the depths. With the help of ROVs, we can unveil the mysterious creatures that live in these extreme habitats, including the beautiful, long-lived corals that are vulnerable to human disturbances, like deep-sea fishing and mining of the seabed. Corals provide habitat for other species, making it important we protect them from human activities into the future.
Backscatter datasets acquired from multiple surveys are usually uncalibrated, making them incompatible. We developed a method to harmonize backscatter data through statistical calibration using areas of mutual overlap to produce a continuous backscatter surface.
Relationships between substrate types and variables from multi-beam data can be modeled, and we propose a self-adaptive analysis skill method to obtain features for seafloor classification, and the classification results using different measures are shown like this.
Results of our research are important to inform and ensure the sustainable use of our marine resources.